All right, folks, buckle up, because today we're plunging headfirst into Anacalypsis.
Whoa, yeah.
This book by Godfrey Higgins.
Deep waters, deep waters.
It promises to unveil some pretty wild, like really wild truths about ancient history.
You can say that again.
But just a heads up.
Yeah.
This book, it's not exactly a light read. It's dense, it's complex, and it's packed with theories that might leave you, well...
Scratching your head.
Yeah, scratching your head a little.
Definitely.
So before we, jump into the really mind-blowing stuff, let's set the stage a bit.
Okay.
Anacalypsis, published in 1836, it represents like over 20 years of Higgins's research into the origins of, well, everything. Languages, nations, religions, the whole shebang.
He was a man on a mission, that's for sure.
And get this, he devoted like 10 hours a day for 2 decades to this project.
Seriously, 10 hours a day.
10 hours a day.
That's some serious dedication.
Talk about commitment.
It really makes you wonder what drove him. Like, who was this guy, Godfrey Higgins?
Right. What kind of person dedicates their life to this kind of research?
Well, he was kind of a Renaissance man, Born into a wealthy family, studied law, became a magistrate, even served in the militia during the Napoleonic Wars.
Wow, a real polymath.
But it was during his time in the militia that he seems to have had this, intellectual awakening.
Oh, what happened?
Well, he caught a fever while serving, and during his recovery, he really got into, the foundations of religion.
A fever-induced epiphany.
Something like that, yeah.
Interesting.
It seems like that experience, it sparked a fire in him. You know, this, insatiable thirst for knowledge that led him down this incredible path of research.
And that path led him to some... let's just say unconventional conclusions.
To put it mildly.
I mean, he was writing in the early 1800s, long before we had the tools and technology we have today.
Right.
Yet he dared to question the accepted historical narratives. He was skeptical of traditional chronologies, the authenticity of certain texts.
He was way ahead of his time.
He truly believed there was a deeper, hidden story waiting to be uncovered.
And his key to unlocking that story?
Etymology.
Etymology, huh?
The history of words.
So he thought that by understanding the origins and evolution of words...
Exactly.
We could, trace connections between different cultures and religions.
He saw language as, a historical DNA holding clues to our shared past.
Okay, I get that, but isn't etymology also, pretty subjective?
It can be.
I mean, couldn't different people interpret the meanings of words in different ways?
That's a good point. And Higgins was aware of that.
Okay.
He always presented his conclusions as theories, based on his understanding of the evidence.
Right.
But even with that, some of his claims, well, let's just say they were pretty controversial.
I bet. So what's, the most out there claim he made? Well, get ready for this one. He argued that there was a one true language at the root of all written languages and alphabets.
Whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah.
He thought all languages came from a single source.
That was his theory.
Wow. Okay, so what language did he think it was?
He believed it was Hebrew?
Hebrew.
Or at least a language from which Hebrew, Chaldee, and Arabic all descended from.
So if Higgins was right, that would mean Hebrew, or its ancestor, was the first language ever written down.
Yeah, that's right.
That would completely rewrite our understanding of history.
It would change everything. The spread of knowledge, the development of civilization, the whole shebang.
It's a mind-blowing concept.
And Higgins, he makes a pretty compelling case.
Yeah.
Focusing on the Hebrew Old Testament, particularly the book of Genesis.
Why Genesis?
Well, Higgins believed that because Genesis was translated by Ptolemy Philadelphus.
It was common Philadelphus.
Oh, he was a Greek ruler of Egypt. So Higgins believed that this translation of Genesis remained, relatively uncorrupted by later interpretations.
Like a linguistic time capsule.
Exactly. He saw it as a window into this ancient primal language.
I can see how that would be exciting for a researcher like Higgins.
Oh, absolutely.
But I imagine this theory didn't exactly go over well with the scholars of his time.
Not at all. It went against everything they believed.
So what else did he believe?
Oh, he didn't stop there.
Of course not.
He was driven by this conviction that there was a, quote-unquote, secret system hidden within ancient mythology.
A secret system.
Yeah, and that this system was built on this original universal language.
Okay, now you've got my attention.
You see, Higgins believed that all those ancient myths we know, the stories from Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Indian cultures, they weren't just random tales.
He thought there was something more to them.
He saw them as a deliberate system of symbolic language.
Like a code.
Exactly. A code designed to convey deeper truths about the universe and humanity's place within it.
So despite their different origins, he thought all these myths were actually connected.
That's right, sharing a common thread, a hidden message waiting to be deciphered.
And this secret system, it was, like intentionally hidden?
That's what Higgins believed.
Why?
He thought it was intentionally obscured by priests and those in power throughout history to maintain their authority and control over the masses.
Wow, talk about a conspiracy theory.
Right, it sounds like something straight out of a movie.
Okay, so let's break down this secret system a little more.
Okay.
What kind of connections did Higgins actually see between these different mythologies?
Well, one of the most striking examples he points to is the concept of the Trinity.
The Trinity.
Yeah.
We usually think of that as a Christian concept.
Right, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
But Higgins, he found this idea in other religions too.
Oh, absolutely. It pops up in various forms across many ancient religions.
Really? Like where?
Well, for example, he talks about the Orphic Trinity in Greek mythology.
Wow.
Phanes, Zeus, and Pluto.
Okay.
3 distinct but interconnected forces representing different aspects of the divine.
Interesting.
And then you have the Mithraic Trinity,
Which is?
a Persian religion popular in Roman times.
Okay.
Mithras, Ahura Mazda, and Ahriman. Again, a threefold division representing different cosmic forces.
So Higgins is arguing that these recurring trinities, they point to a deeper shared understanding of the divine.
Exactly, something that goes beyond individual cultures and religions.
So he's not saying that all these trinities are exactly the same.
Right.
But that they share a common root, a fundamental concept that was expressed in different ways.
Exactly. And this, for Higgins, was part of that secret system, a hidden code woven into the fabric of mythology, suggesting a far more profound and interconnected ancient wisdom than we usually acknowledge.
Okay, so we've got secret systems, hidden knowledge, and this controversial idea about a single original language. But I have a feeling Higgins didn't stop there.
Oh, you know him better than that.
He takes things even further, doesn't he?
Oh, much further.
What else did he come up with?
Well, he goes on to compare, get this, Jesus, Krishna, and Buddha.
He's comparing those figures. Now, that's bold.
It was certainly controversial.
What was he trying to get at?
Well, this is where things get a little dicey for his time.
How so?
He saw striking similarities in the narratives surrounding these figures.
Like what?
Divine birth, miracles, teachings, emphasizing love and compassion, those sorts of things.
Okay, I can see those similarities.
Right. And he also focused on the shared symbolism associated with them.
What kind of symbolism?
The cross, the serpent, the fish, for instance.
Hmm.
He argued that these figures might actually represent different aspects of the same underlying concept or archetype, expressing universal truths about human nature and the spiritual journey.
So he's suggesting that these figures, revered in different religions, might be different faces of the same fundamental truth.
That was his theory.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
It is.
Okay, so we've got secret systems, hidden knowledge, and a controversial theory about a single original language, but it sounds like there's even more.
Oh, definitely. We haven't even touched on his fascination with ancient structures, like Stonehenge and the pyramids.
Ah, yes, those mysterious cyclopean constructions.
Exactly.
Welcome back, deep divers. Man, that first part was a lot to take in. Godfrey Higgins, what a thinker. He was really willing to, challenge the status quo. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. How did he try to actually prove these radical theories?
Well, one example is his analysis of the very first word in the Hebrew Bible in Genesis.
Bereshit.
Bereshit, huh? Yeah, usually it's translated as in the beginning.
Right. Seems simple enough.
But Higgins, he was all about digging deeper.
Of course.
He breaks down Bereshit into its parts. Be, ra, sit.
Okay.
Be, he says, means in or at, like a prefix.
Makes sense.
But then it gets interesting.
Lay it on me.
He connects Ra to the Egyptian sun god, Ra.
Oh, I see. Like sun, light, create.
Right. And then sit. He links that to Isis, the Egyptian goddess associated with the moon.
Hold on. So instead of in the beginning, Higgins is suggesting something like in the sun and moon.
Exactly. He saw this as a clue that even the most basic words could have hidden layers of meaning, connections to other cultures, other deities even.
That's pretty wild, but not everyone's going to be swayed by just one word, right?
Well, of course not, but Higgins had more.
More examples.
Oh, yeah, tons. He was a master at connecting the dots.
So did he have other examples of this secret system in language and mythology?
Definitely. Remember the recurring theme of the Trinity we talked about?
Yeah, how it pops up in different forms in different religions.
Right. And Higgins didn't just mention it briefly. He went deep. He talked about the Orphic Trinity in Greek mythology.
Oh, yeah. Phanes, Zeus, and Pluto.
Exactly. 3 distinct but interconnected forces, all playing a part in the cosmic order.
And then there's the Mithraic Trinity, too.
Mithras, Ahura Mazda, and Ahriman.
Right, the Persian religion.
Yeah, exactly. Even within the Hebrew Bible, Higgins found hints of a trinity. He looked at the word Elohim, usually translated as God, but it's actually plural.
So he's seeing this 3-in-1 concept in the language itself.
Exactly. For Higgins, this was more evidence that the Trinity wasn't just a Christian idea. It was something much, much older. This concept was woven into ancient belief systems across the globe. He argued that these trinities, while not identical, all pointed to a deeper, shared understanding of the divine.
It's like he was on this quest to, crack a historical code.
That's a great way to put it. He believed that if we understood this symbolic language, we could unlock all these truths about the past, about ourselves even.
But wasn't this system supposed to be hidden?
Well, Higgins believed it was intentionally kept secret by those in power, the priests, the elites.
To control people.
He thought so. So we've got ancient languages with hidden meanings, myths as coded messages, and a powerful elite hoarding this knowledge. It's like a historical thriller.
It definitely is. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about those massive stone structures. Higgins was so fascinated by, Stonehenge and the pyramids.
Yes, the Cyclopean constructions.
Right. Those structures always blow my mind.
They're pretty incredible.
The sheer scale of them, the precision, it's hard to believe they were built with the limited technology we assume they had.
I know, it's amazing.
And that's what intrigued Higgins, right?
Exactly. He saw these structures as proof of a level of knowledge and sophistication that challenged conventional ideas about, prehistory.
He wasn't just talking about technical skill, though, was he?
No, he was talking about something much bigger. He believed these structures were evidence of a lost global civilization.
A lost civilization.
A civilization that predates all the cultures we normally think of as the oldest ones.
Yeah.
And this civilization, he believed, had advanced knowledge. We can see hints of it in these enigmatic structures. Okay, now we're talking. A lost civilization with advanced knowledge.
Yeah.
That's the stuff of legends. Imagine a world where people from different continents were sharing ideas and technology, working together on these massive projects.
It's definitely a mind-blowing idea.
It is. It makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about the past.
And that's one of the most compelling aspects of Higgins' work, I think.
Yeah.
He makes us question everything we thought we knew and be open to new possibilities.
So we've covered languages, symbols, lost civilizations, but there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to talk about. Higgins' comparisons of Jesus, Krishna, and Buddha.
That's where things get really interesting and maybe a little uncomfortable for some.
It's definitely a topic for another deep dive all on its own.
For sure. So why don't we take a break here and we'll pick up this thread in part 3.
Okay, deep divers, we're back and ready to tackle the final piece of the puzzle in Godfrey Higgins' Anacalypsis. We've gone through a lot, secret languages, lost civilizations, but we can't wrap up without talking about one of the most controversial parts of his work, his comparisons of Jesus, Krishna, and Buddha.
It's definitely a topic that pushes boundaries, even today. But I think it also shows just how much Higgins was willing to, challenge the conventional way of thinking. He explored connections that a lot of people wouldn't even touch.
Exactly. He wasn't afraid to ask the big questions, even if the answers might not be popular. So let's get right into it. What did Higgins see in these figures that made him compare them? Well, he looked at their stories, their narratives, really carefully. He was looking for common threads, similarities in their symbolic parallels. He pointed out how similar their stories were: divine births, miracles, teachings that emphasized love and compassion. These are themes that you see throughout history across different cultures, and Higgins saw them as evidence of a deeper truth, a universal truth that went beyond any one religion.
So he wasn't saying they were literally the same person or that their stories were identical.
No, not at all. He was more interested in the archetypes they represented, the universal patterns of human experience, and spiritual seeking. He saw them as different expressions of this shared human search for meaning, connection, and in something bigger than ourselves.
It's like he was saying that these figures, even though they came from different cultures and different times, were all tapping into something fundamental about being human.
Exactly. And that idea while controversial, is pretty powerful. It suggests that there might be a common thread, a shared wisdom that runs through all the different belief systems we have.
It's definitely a thought-provoking idea. It challenges those traditional religious ideas, but it also opens up this possibility of a more unified and interconnected spiritual landscape.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even today, this idea continues to inspire new ways of thinking about religion and spirituality. It's definitely a conversation starter.
So what about those shared symbols Higgins talks about? The cross, the serpent, the fish, those kinds of things. What did he think they meant?
Well, he didn't think those symbols were just random decorations or cultural quirks. He saw them as expressions of a deeper symbolic language, a code that told us something about the universe and our place in it.
He talked about Krishna and Jesus both being born under a star, for example.
Right, a symbol that's important in so many cultures.
And then there's the serpent, a symbol of temptation in Christianity, but also wisdom and knowledge in other traditions.
Exactly. And Higgins argued that if we could understand this symbolic language, this code in the myths, we could unlock all sorts of hidden meanings and really appreciate how interconnected human spirituality is.
So it's not about dismissing the specific teachings or beliefs of different religions, but about seeing those common threads that connect them, those universal truths they all seem to point to.
That's it. And that message is, it's really relevant even in today's world, which is becoming more interconnected every day.
Okay, so in our deep dive into Anacalypsis, we've covered a lot. We've explored Hades' radical theories about language, mythology, lost civilizations, and those connections between these major religious figures. It's been quite a journey, to say the least. But before we go, let's bring it back to our listeners. Why should they care about all this? What's the takeaway?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing to remember is that Higgins' work, even if you don't agree with all of his conclusions, it encourages us to think critically and to question what we've been told about the past. It reminds us that history isn't set in stone. It's constantly changing, a constantly evolving interpretation of events.
He pushes us to dig deeper, to look for connections that other people might miss, and to be open to different ways of seeing things.
Exactly. And that's more important than ever today. With all the information coming at us all the time, we need to be able to think for ourselves and decide what's true.
Absolutely. Higgins's work reminds us that there's always more to learn, more to discover, and that learning is a journey that never ends. So even if you don't agree with everything he says, his approach, his passion, and his willingness to challenge the norm are pretty inspiring.
I completely agree. Anacalypsis is like a call to action, an invitation to become active explorers of history, culture, and what it means to be human.
Well, there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes controversial world of Godfrey Higgins and his Anacalypsis. We hope you've enjoyed the journey, that it's made you think, challenge your ideas, and maybe even inspired you to read Anacalypsis yourself. Keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.